This week's Doctor Who episode brought yet another cameo from Anita Dobson as the mysterious Mrs. Flood. Mrs. Flood, who we have previously seen as Ruby's nosy neighbour in Season 1, beginning with the church on Ruby Road, who we most recently saw in The Robot Revolution as Belinda's neighbour, the neighbour of both of the 50th Doctor's companions so far. And now she's cropped up again in 1950s Miami. Who is she? What the hell is going on here? What are the latest rumours and theories about Mrs. Flood? What can we glean from this latest brief scene? That is what I'll be discussing in this video. I've previously analysed all the information we know about Mrs. Flood so far in a big sort of everything we know so far video last week, so be sure to go and watch that if you haven't already to kind of bring you up to speed. But yes, this latest appearance. The interesting thing about this is that I think a lot of people had already seen this scene being filmed, from filming when there were photos online. And that was, oh gosh, like over a year ago now, I think. About, February or March last year, something like that. But yes, there were photos of the Penarth Pier location, which became Palazzo Cinema, or whatever it's called, or Picture House indeed, in this week's episode in Lux. And Mrs. Flood was spotted there, Anita Dobson. And I remember at the time that was incredibly intriguing because we'd only seen her at that point, I think, in the church on Ruby Road. So we'd only seen her in her capacity as, Ruby's neighbour. We knew there was something going on because of the fourth wall break, the post-credits scene. Never seen a TARDIS before. But to then see her in a period setting for a future episode in a future season with a new companion, with Ruby nowhere to be seen, that was just like, oh my god, what is this about? What's going on here? It was completely different to anything we kind of learnt about the character so far and been led to expect about her. I think at the time I remember thinking, maybe she's time travelled with the Doctor, maybe she's become, another kind of companion for him or stowed away on the TARDIS. That was when we all thought she was still a relatively innocent character or, nothing too much to her. But of course now we know very different. That is not the case. Yes, she is presumably, got access to time travel herself. Maybe a time machine, maybe a TARDIS if she's a Time Lord, maybe just something more abstract like with the gods and the Pantheon and stuff, if she is herself a god or a kind of higher power, higher being, maybe she can just jump between eras as easily as like walking from one room to another, maybe that's how it is for her. Yeah, very, very intriguing. There's clearly lots, going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to here, like how she got there, what she's up to. But yes, in terms of the actual content of the scene, it very much played into both the metafictional aspect of Mrs. Flood as a character and of this story as a whole, the kind of whole self-referential thing about Mrs. Flood, about Lux, the whole thing of like addressing the fact that this is a construct, it's a story, it's a fabrication, and people are at home watching, similar to Fourth Wall Break. We didn't get a Fourth Wall Break this time, at least not from Mrs. Flood herself, although I wonder whether one was planned because there was a shot in Unleashed of her like winking at the camera, or it looked like she was winking at the camera. I don't know whether that was just like her winking at the behind the scenes cameras or whether, she was meant to be winking at us literally as part of the episode. I did think the end of the scene and the end of the story was quite abrupt, like the whole thing with, trick of the light, great line, but then kind of literally crashing straight into the titles. So I wonder whether maybe there was meant to be a fourth wall break, a wink to the camera there, and for whatever reason that was cut. Nevertheless, it was really fun to see her here again at the end of the story compared to last week where she was right at the beginning. Very, very fun indeed, and some golden lines of dialogue where she refers to the Doctor and his story as a show, which of course had already happened in the story by this point with the whole thing with the fans and that scene. But yes, if you want a show, I can recommend this one. Better warn you though, limited run only, show must end May the 24th. Da, da, da. So yeah, she's very clearly involved in whatever is going on, with the date of the 24th of May and the wider series arc here. She's clearly either, fully responsible for that or partly responsible. There has been some speculation in some quarters about whether this is a broader meta thing tying into the whole state of the show at the moment, the future of the show, the comes up in the air thing about Disney and whether they're going to continue funding it or not, and rumours about season 3, if and when that's going to come, or whether it's going to come anytime soon, and whether, she is literally saying to us at home, Doctor Who is literally going to end as a TV show at the end of this series. I mean, for clarity, May 24th is the air date of the first part of the finale, episode 7, Wish World. There is still episode 8, Reality War, to go after that on May the 31st. But there has been a lot of talk in things like RTD's Radio Times episode guide, where he's basically said, the events of episode 7 are so big and game-changing and monumental that you could well be forgiven for thinking that there won't be an episode 8, because it's like, how the hell are they going to get out of this one? How is there possibly going to be anything like any continuation after whatever cliffhanger they throw at us on May the 24th? I think overall I join the people saying this is perhaps a bit of a stretch and it's probably not intentional or deliberate. It's just like a coincidence that these two things have ended up happening at the same time. This plot line about a big threat at the end of the season and, the whole thing with Disney and the show's future. Because, I think when it was being shot like a year ago, 18 months ago, these conversations, wouldn't have been happening at that point. That they wouldn't be able to plan that far back that, Disney was going to react in the way they have or whatever, and there was going to be this uncertainty. They wouldn't have necessarily known at that point, I don't think. So, and also just as an idea, cool as it would be for them to literally pretend Doctor Who was getting cancelled as some kind of crazy marketing campaign, marketing ploy. I'm not sure really, actually, practically speaking, how viable that would be. But with Mrs. Flood, the floodgates are quite literally now open, wide open. We've now seen her in the past as well as the present. It seems she can go anywhere in space and time now. We know that she can be in every episode of the season this year, so we can fully expect to see her like in The Well next week and beyond. And she's in the cast list for The Well, just to confirm that as well. So what role is she going to play there? That seems like a very strange one. Like, how is she going to get 500,000 years into the future? Is she going to be literally in the well itself, in what remains of this mining base? Is she going to be like part of this crew that we've seen in the spacesuits? That'd be quite funny if like one of the crew members literally like lifts up their visor and it's Denise Dobson and Mrs. Flood underneath, like saying, "Oh, don't mind me, you ain't seen me here." That'd be quite funny. Another very intriguing thing just worth saying as well is that in the synopsis for The Well, we get a reference to the phrase absolute terror, which of course Mrs. Flood first used at the end of Empire of Death last year, the finale of season 1, when she warned that the Doctor's journey was going to end in absolute terror. I wonder what's going on here, because that seems kind of intentional. It'd be quite a coincidence if they literally used the same phrase twice. I suppose it could be a coincidence, but if it's not, it's like, okay, what is the meaning of that? Because as far as we know, this isn't the end of the journey for the 15th Doctor. In this story, there isn't going to be like some kind of shock regeneration or twist there. So I wonder what that could be a reference to, whether perhaps things are going to start to get even more serialised than they have been so far and building to this climax at the end of the season, whether Mrs. Flood might have more of a prominent role than she has so far as well, because it has just been cameos so far in season 2. I also do feel the need to point out that in Lux, this week's story, there were references to regeneration, to Time Lords, Gallifrey, other Time Lords, the Doctor being the last of the Time Lords, even to Bigeneration as well. Could all this play into the Mrs. Flood storyline if she is really another Time Lord, hiding herself away, as we said last time? Is that building and laying the foundations for whatever happens with Mrs. Flood, preparing the audience, preparing Belinda as well, making sure that she knows about all this Time Lord and Gallifrey stuff before it comes into play later on? Lots of food for thought. As ever with Mrs. Flood, I guess we'll just have to see where it all goes, but it's a very fun journey so far, very much enjoying this. Much like with the Susan Twist thing last year, it's like, okay, what is going on here? What is a clue? What isn't a clue? Where is it all going? Very, very intriguing indeed. But yes, be sure to let me know all of your thoughts and theories about Mrs. Flood, your predictions in the comments below. Which, of the rumours are you most convinced by about her identity? What do you think is going on? Is there, a broader significance to her words this week about the show coming to an end? If you are new here, please make sure you subscribe for more stuff like this in the future, more updates about Mrs. Flood, more coverage of season 2, including reviews and other videos like this. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.